All right, now what I want to talk about is organizing things in the workplace and how do we deal with sequencing. There's some apps that are out there called CanPlan or SceneSpeak that has visual, plus you can have auditory information on how to do a particular task. And so for tasks, for task reduction, so you're trying to reduce the number of tasks associated with performing a job. And when you reduce the task, you reduce the cognitive load and the cognitive demands. So some of the ways that we do that is we can have a smartphone, watches that go off and relieve us from having to remember particular things to do, using voice recognition and voice assistance, wearable systems. Again, wearable systems are far more powerful in prompting or reminding somebody to do a particular task. And then jigs and fixtures. So what is a jig and a fixture? So a jig would be something that would hold something in place so that it wouldn't move and so that you could do other things to the object. A fixture would also hold something in place. But what we do with these jigs and fixtures is we then take them and let's say we create a particular jig that we have a part that has to drop in. And we have to measure that part to make sure that it's within the parameters. But I've got this cognitive impairment and I can't use a ruler and measure. So we would make a jig that only this would fit into. And if it was too small, it would drop through. If it was too big, it wouldn't fit at all. So you would only put the objects in that fit. And so jigs and fixtures is something that works really well. And then we also have something where we call fail-safe. And there's this cognitive retraining software that helps people who've experienced a stroke to then go back into a grocery store to be able to navigate, to be able to try to do that sequence of tasks that they once did before. And so in a fail-safe environment, you try to replicate that in a controlled environment and help them to navigate and help them to improve their ability to remember and their ability to perform sequence-related tasks. GPS systems are also something really great. People are saying, he can't take a bus. What if he doesn't get off at his bus stop? Well, there's all these GPS units, such as with your phone. You can say, you can use Find My Friends or Find My iPhone, which is really great. And I can actually watch my husband and daughter coming down the street using those particular apps. So let's say the person didn't get off at their bus stop. You can also set it up with GPS using if this, then that protocol. If the person does not get off the bus, a call will be made to an assistant to say, call them up and say, hey, don't worry about it, get back on the next bus, cross the street, and come back over and get off that next stop. So GPS is really pretty profound in terms of tracking and finding people. And so that's what I mean by fail-safe. I mentioned the go and no-go jigs. Really, those are the fail-safe ones that you can't screw up when you're doing quality control. It does it for you. And smartphones, cell phones, limit switches. I worked in this one plant with this worker that had an intellectual disability, and he loved punching all these buttons. And he was also supposed to stop the machine when the machine got to within 4 feet of the end. And sometimes he'd forget to stop the machine. So these little tiny micro limit switches you can set up right at the edge of the machines where you want them to stop, or so that way if you forget, it'll shut off all by itself, these really cool limit switches. And thinking of limit switches, I also want you to think about, they have coffee pots, they have curling irons, they have irons for ironing your clothes. And what they will detect is that if there's been no activity, or sometimes they're set to automatically turn off after 10 minutes. So those are a form of a limit switch. They have a time limit and they shut off. I was at Candlewood Suites, and the burner, to operate the burner in these suites is you have to turn this dial on how many minutes is it going to take to boil the water. Because let's say you fell asleep with the pot on, it'll automatically turn the burner off. So that's really cool, those types of fail-safe appliances. which is great. And also for the elderly who often have fires in the kitchen because they forget that they left the burners on. So when we do a task analysis and we start chunking things down, here's an example of a recycling job in which the workers were making all these errors. And so I decided to assign one worker to the color white and another worker to the color yellow, or newspapers, or just colored items. And so the workers would only look for white and pick things that were completely white, and they would put in the bin. And another worker would only look for things that looked like newspapers, newspaper material, and put it in the bin. Another worker that would only look at magazines or anything with color on them and put it in the bin. So productivity increased and errors decreased. So it worked quite well. All right, so paper sorting, chunking things down, jigs and fixtures that we've already talked about. Here was an approach. This was a job in which the workers had to put these med kits together, and they were just failing miserably because they would leave a piece off or they would forget to put a cap on. And so remember, I was talking about we should always organize things in no more than sequences of 3. And we should just chunk things down into many, many steps. And we should use all of our senses: vision, auditory, tactile. So the first thing I did was I took pictures of the steps. So there's the visual. And then I actually would stick the actual item onto the next to the picture, so they would know this cap has to be screwed onto this lid. This cap has to be screwed onto this lid. And so showing that. And then the black, these little black things here, this was the message that I would say, put this tube inside of the silver tube. So you see the person putting this inside the silver tube and put the cap on. So they would just focus just on that, and then they would go to the next one. They push that button and it would say, put these 3 pieces of paper, collate them together. And then the next one, they push the button and it would auditorily say, take the cylinder and roll it around the paper and put it into the white tube. So again, productivity increased, errors decreased. Just remember that you will use different systems for different environments. In the bathroom, looking at waterproof types of memory devices, often you will find somebody will be in the bathroom and they will forget that the shower has been running. That's what's great about the old hot water heaters, because eventually the water will turn cold and then the person will get out of the shower. But having different prompts for the bathroom. In the bedroom, remembering to set the alarm. And that's what I like about Siri. I'll say, hey Siri, wake me up at 5 a.m. And so just using the voice. But you can have an alarm that goes off at the same time every day, so in the bedroom. And then you can have your prompts, and also in the bedroom is reminding the person to put their memory watch on. I think is really important and effective. But you could also do things like putting little notes on the bathroom mirror about what you need, putting notes on the door when you're leaving, always sticking your keys right by right by the front door, having a little hook, and coming up with different routines for people who are constantly like losing things or misplacing objects. Coming and going a workplace too. So every environment may require different types of memory prompting, reminder types of aids and solutions. Another thing I really love is using the iPad and doing video prompts, where they have the iPad right in front of them at the workstation. They watch it. We always film having the camera to their eye, and it's filming down so that then when they're watching, they see their arms out like that, and so then they're putting it together just according to the video that they're watching. So video modeling for intellectual disabilities, for sequencing of tasks, absolutely fabulous. So always remember, write this down, that whenever we're doing that, when we're recording that, we're going to put that together because they tap, swipe, tap, swipe, tap, swipe. The tapping part, the video starts playing. The swipe, they go to the next step. So when we record, if they're right-handed, we put the camcorder or we put the iPad on their right side. If they're left-handed, we put it on their left side as we're recording them doing that particular task. I already mentioned these really cool shut-off devices. for appliances are really great.